Ever heard the phrase, $1 billion mistake? Well, today we're talking about a decision that cost a company not just billions, but its undisputed leadership in the tech world. This is the story of how Intel, the giant that once powered nearly every computer, made one of the biggest blunders in corporate history. Back in the early 2000s, Intel was king. If you bought a PC, it almost certainly had that iconic Intel Inside sticker. They dominated the market, holding over 82% of the share for x86 CPUs. From personal computers to massive servers, Intel's chips were the brains of the operation. They were powerful, profitable, and everywhere. The company was on top of the world, seemingly untouchable. But as we all know, pride often comes before a fall. The year is 2005. A little company you might have heard of, Apple, is about to change the world. They were developing a revolutionary device, the very first iPhone. They needed a processor, and they went to the biggest name in the business, Intel. Apple's offer was straightforward. They wanted Intel to produce the chip for their new phone, but Intel looked at the numbers and scoffed. At the time, Intel was focused on high-margin chips for the PC market. They were selling hundreds of millions of these powerful, expensive processors every year. Apple, on the other hand, was offering a low-margin, high-volume deal. They projected selling maybe a few million phones. For Intel, the math just didn't add up. Why would they retool their factories for a small fry project with tiny profit margins when they were swimming in cash from the PC boom? It seemed like a distraction, an insignificant niche in a world ruled by desktops and laptops. So Intel did what they thought was a smart business move. They said no. They passed on the iPhone. This single decision set off a chain reaction that would reshape the entire semiconductor industry. Left without its first choice, Apple turned elsewhere. They found a partner in a different kind of chip architecture, ARM. Unlike Intel's complex and power-hungry x86 designs, ARM chips were simpler, more energy efficient, and perfect for a battery-powered device like a smartphone. Apple didn't just partner with ARM, they poured resources into designing their own ARM-based processors. To build them, they turned to foundries like Samsung, and most critically, a Taiwanese company named TSMC. This is where the story gets really interesting. The iPhone wasn't just a moderate success, it was a phenomenon. Sales exploded, going from a few million to tens of millions, then hundreds of millions per year. All those massive orders from Apple became a river of gold for TSMC. With this unprecedented funding, TSMC was able to invest billions into research and development, relentlessly pushing the boundaries of chip manufacturing. While Intel was coasting on its PC profits, TSMC was in a race to make chips smaller, faster, and more efficient. By 2017, the world had changed. The smartphone market had grown to over 1 billion units shipped annually, dwarfing the PC market. And inside over 95% of those phones, an ARM-based chip. The very technology Intel had dismissed was now powering the most dominant consumer electronics device on the planet. And thanks to Apple's business, TSMC had leapfrogged Intel, mastering manufacturing processes that Intel itself was struggling to achieve. Intel had not only missed the boat, they had funded the company that built a better, faster fleet. Of course, Intel eventually realized its mistake. They saw the mobile tidal wave coming and tried desperately to get in on the action. They launched their own line of mobile processors, the Atom series, but it was too little, too late. Their chips were still too power hungry and couldn't compete with the efficiency of the ARM ecosystem that had been maturing for years. Their attempts to break into the mobile market were a string of costly failures. While Intel was fumbling its mobile strategy, its core business, the fortress of the PC market, began to crumble. The company that once had an iron grip with over 82% market share saw its dominance erode. Its old rival, AMD, which had been on the ropes for years, saw an opening. AMD came back with a vengeance, launching its Ryzen processors that offered competitive and sometimes superior performance at a better price. Let's look at the numbers, because they are staggering. In 2016, Intel still held a commanding 82.2% of the x86 market. By early 2024, that number had plummeted to just 61%. Where did that market share go? It went straight to AMD, whose share more than doubled from 17.8% to a stunning 35.7%. The king was no longer secure on its throne. The financial consequences have been devastating for Intel and its investors. If you look at the stock market over the last 5 years, the story is written in stark, brutal lines. Intel's stock has actually declined by over 20%. Now, let's compare that to its competitors. In that same 5-year period, AMD's stock skyrocketed by an incredible 720%. And then there's Nvidia, which pivoted brilliantly to AI and graphics. Its stock is up an astronomical 1970%. Intel wasn't just left behind, it was lapped multiple times. But perhaps the most symbolic blow came in 2020. Apple, the company Intel had turned away 15 years earlier, delivered the final decisive strike. After years of relying on Intel processors for its Mac lineup, Apple announced it was dropping them entirely. They would now be using their own custom-designed ARM-based silicon, the very chips born from Intel's 2005 rejection. The long-standing partnership was over. The student had officially surpassed the master, and the master was now out of a job. So, when we look back, it's crystal clear. That one decision to pass on the iPhone wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a historic miscalculation that cost Intel its leadership in a market that grew to be 10 times the size of the PC market. It fueled the rise of its most formidable competitors, like TSMC and AMD, and directly led to its former partner, Apple, becoming a chip design powerhouse. It fundamentally altered the landscape of the semiconductor industry for decades. It's a powerful lesson in business and technology. You can't afford to be complacent. The next big thing might look small and unprofitable at first, but ignoring it can cost you everything. Intel learned that lesson the hard way. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the tech world, and let me know in the comments what other corporate blunders you'd like to see covered. See you in the next one.